Hello, and welcome to another episode of People of Media, where I spend time with inspiring and interesting people in the media space and specifically media leaders. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Max Pittman, who's the Director of Revenue or Director of Marketing and Revenue at San Antonio Magazine, which is under Hearst. And so she's going to get to tell you all about herself in a moment. I picked her because I'm always looking for people who are entrepreneurial, people who are doing something new or different that I think can have something to add to the conversation about media and data and revenue. And so I picked her because she's entrepreneurial, she's hungry, and she's bullish on the list. And so they've started some new lists, some experimental lists with us this year that we're going to talk about. So welcome to the show, Max.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So let's start with your journey, a little bit of your media journey, and what that's looked like.
Yeah, I feel like every job I've ever had has led me to where I am now. Like you said, I'm the director of marketing revenue for San Antonio Magazine. Um, as you mentioned, we're under Hearst, so our presence in San Antonio also involves the San Antonio Express News and MySA, which is a digital only, the highest traffic news site in San Antonio. So there's a lot going on here, but my primary focus is advertising revenue and initiatives for the magazine. And I've kind of always been in the magazine world. I think it growing up a millennial, maybe we were raised on magazines. So my first job out of college was at a publisher rep firm who we represented some big national names like Men's Health, Women's Health, Time Magazine, Fortune, Money. So I kind of dove right in, being a very small fish in that very big pond of print and digital magazine and the advertising side of that. And from there, I had the opportunity to segue to Austin Monthly magazine. So I got to then kind of be a bigger fish in that small pond and jump into local media. And at the time when I was at Austin Monthly, the sister publication was San Antonio Magazine. So in my
Yep.
previous life, I was here before. And I had a really long tenure there, loved it. And then after about 7 years, decided to branch out and try kind of some different things. And I had a stint at Pandora. So I did streaming for a little bit. And then, yeah, I spent the last 3 years at Dell, which was great. It was just really excited. I saw Hearst acquired San Antonio Magazine, and it felt good to have the opportunity to come back to my roots. And I have a true passion for local media. I think it'll always be around. People have their opinions on where print is headed, and I completely understand the concerns, but I think there will always be a place for local media, and it's a really fun space to be. So I'm very happy to be back here.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of big fish, little pond, little fish, big pond. What
Hmm.
makes you keep jumping? What brings you back to the little pond? Since you've spent time in the big pond, so you've worked in the kind of maybe more high pressure environments. What brings you back?
Yeah, I think the the pressure is the same. It's just kind of diff a different strategy. I enjoy working with more local businesses, and you can kind of get more creative on your solutions.
Yeah.
It's the local feels more about relationship management. You kind of feel like you have a personal stake in these clients that you're working with. Um, and then having that local twist, it's all about San Antonio. And so driving that part of it, we work really closely with the editorial team. So, because we're symbiotic. If obviously the editorial side of the magazine wouldn't exist without the advertising and marketing side, you have to make money, but then we rely on this amazing content. Like we couldn't exist without the amazing work that the art and edit side does, because no one wants to read something that's not high quality. And so the quality that the edit puts out just kind of combines really well. Yeah, I kind of prefer that aspect of local. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the relationships. The fact that you said you can make a difference, right? Maybe you can feel like you're making a bigger difference with a company that's, actually constrained with budget. And
And you can really dive into to identify the needs and what they're really trying to do, and then come up with a really cool solution. You can do that to an extent on the larger national scale, but a lot of times what you find on this giant national scale with people who have millions and millions of dollars of an ad budget, a lot of what they're doing on the media buying realm is they're sending you a proposal request, you're filling out a spreadsheet, and what you can enter in on that spreadsheet is what they're going to base it on, which is fine. And there's a place for that, but it's really nice to be able to sit down with someone and really explore ways that we can meet their needs.
are you a creative person? Would you call yourself a creative person?
Yeah, very much so. I'm a writer at heart, and I guess by trade. So
Yeah.
I enjoy that side of it.
Yeah. By trade, meaning you do other writing besides what you do for San
I
Antonio.
mean, technically, I have a degree from journalism school, so that's kind of where I thought things were going to lead me. And I now, I help create a lot of collateral for all of our advertising initiatives. Anytime there's a special section, I'm doing the copywriting for that. So at my previous role at Austin Monthly, I did all of the sponsored content articles. And so I find ways to be able to jump in with the copywriting side as well, just because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Dreamer's gonna dream. Dreamer's
Yeah,
gonna find a way to dream.
exactly.
I'm a poet. That's my passion, poetry, and running a tech-enabled data company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I find ways. I find ways to be creative because I go crazy if I did it.
Yeah, totally.
So then what would you say is your superpower? And I think that actually probably is a good segue into that. Like, what would you say is your unique superpower that you trace the thread throughout all these jobs, the thing that you love to do and that you're great at?
Um, I honestly think my superpower is just being scrappy. I know you had said hungry, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, another good word for it, but I definitely describe myself as scrappy. When I hit a wall or there's some giant roadblock or we get a no, I don't see that as a failure. It's either, okay, let's replan and regroup, let's pivot. Um, just kind of taking every opportunity. And I think that's where some of the creativity comes in too, is just, when we run into obstacles, like how do we turn that into an opportunity? And so I think that's kind of where I thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you heard of a book called Six Types of Working Genius? Pat Lencioni.
No.
That's a good one. There's a gift there. He breaks us into six different gifts. And one of them is the gift of tenacity.
Mm,
So those are
yeah.
people that like will charge through walls, like
Hmm.
like they just don't stop. You know,
Yeah.
we we've got one of those on staff. Shout out to Michelle. Michelle's a nasty person. She's in the lab right now, just plowing through walls. That's what she does all day long.
But yeah.
All right. So real quickly, can you tell us about your role? So I know director of marketing revenue. Put a finer point on that for me.
Yeah, I have my hands in a little bit of all things marketing here in her San Antonio. So if there's a big strategic account that comes in, I'm part of the team who kind of helps plan for that and strategize. But my main role is simply revenue for the magazine, whether it be the super traditional, our e-newsletters, our print ads, our events, and then getting creative. So coming up with different initiatives. We're excited about a couple initiatives we have on deck for 2025 where we got really creative. It's San Antonio, so we're doing these cool. We're taking some of our editorial content and twisting in some advertising options to do like a lotteria card because it's very San Antonio centric. Creating these special sections that maybe come with custom photography where we send out a magazine photographer. And so anything and everything print, digital, and event revenue for the magazine, and then supporting the sales staff in any way I possibly can there. And yeah, kind of just managing the advertising side. I mean, I refer to myself as advertising director a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
more straightforward way to say my
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. Yeah. It has its own connotation with it. So that actually helps me to
Mhm.
locate. For some reason, I don't know why a title, sometimes a title can do that. It's
Yeah,
like it does the work, it shortcuts the brain for you.
exactly.
Oh, all right. So revenue for the magazine, new initiatives, ad director. I was going to ask you, where do you see the most revenue coming in now? Right?
Hmm.
Like which channel seems to be the most lucrative, and then which ones, and name a channel that looks hopeful for the future also.
Totally. For the magazine specifically, like I mentioned, these kind of more editorialized special sections we've been doing have been doing really well. I know pretty much every local magazine now has their hand in the Faces bucket, but Faces was very successful for us. You know, it's editorialized. We send a photographer out. It's presented like a article in a sponsored section, and then you get to claim your exclusive title, the face of dentistry in San Antonio, the face of, HVAC services, and those do really well. I
Yeah,
think people like to grasp onto something that's a little different. Our emails are doing really well too. I guess that kind of surprises me, but I don't know. I feel like email marketing is kind of having a moment right now, and
yeah,
those are doing really well, both on the editorial side, so attaching themselves to the San Antonio Magazine editorial emails, and on the custom side. And then for the future, like I said, I think anything that's kind of editorialized, the not only in print but in digital as well, I've found that, and maybe I'm biased because I used to be a sponsored content writer, but I have
yeah,
found that an audience doesn't mind reading something that is sponsored as long as the content is relevant and interesting.
yeah,
We tell this all the time. If we have a hotel client that wants to do sponsored content, we're like, hey, what's not going to work is for you to have a sponsored article that's just a long-winded ad of why you should come stay at your resort. No one wants to
right,
read that. What
right,
will work is an article that says the top 5 ways to spend a romantic weekend in San Antonio, and 2 out of those 5 are, going to your golf course and going and getting a couples massage at your spa. Like that's something people would read anyway as an editorial article.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of future in that. And then, yeah, I mean the list, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. I love how you're thinking about that. Like even the phrasing there that just stopped me for a moment in my tracks, right? Like we don't need another long-winded ad, right? Sponsored
Yeah.
content isn't just a long-winded ad for
Mhm.
you. You have to inject that creativity. Do, do you follow a guy named David Arkin? You heard his
Mhm.
name? He would be a good person for me to introduce you to, maybe. Um, he's kind of a sponsored content guru, and he's been jumping up
Hmm.
and down on sponsored content for a long time. So cutting edge dude, like forward thinker. I'll just put him on your radar and then leave it at that. But yeah, that's cool. So you think sponsored content is gonna have its moment, right?
Yeah, and finding the hook. We had a travel client who wanted to do sponsored content, which, a CVB or travel client, that's a pretty easy one to do because it's easy to make that interesting. But we were like, how can we take it a step further and kind of get that viral aspect? And so, we made the article like, the top 8 Instagrammable spots, and that kind of, kind
Yeah,
of gets people's attention. So just kind of um, yeah, you don't always get to put on your creative hat, so it's nice
yeah,
when you get to.
yeah, yeah. But are you finding like when you do that, when instead of saying, "Hey, we're a resort, here's a big old write up about us," instead you say, "Oh, top 5 Instagrammable spots," and then they've got 2 of theirs in there. Are you finding the engagement of that sponsored content um, mirrors or is similar to good editorial content, or what do you
I
see?
do, yeah. It's interesting, when we pull the web data of what does well. doesn't. It's also a great opportunity for advertisers to get in on it and also push it. I mean, for faces, we
Yeah.
had 25 faces this year that have, one big article and then
Yeah.
it links out to their individuals. And so I emailed each individual client, basically gave them a synopsis of here's all the links, here's what you should share, here's when the emails are going out. Like, let them capitalize on it for a full year. Don't just put the website up, let it sit for no reason. So really pushing your clients too, then to get that engagement on our side, which in turn helps them. And so that's part of what I do too. Sometimes clients are afraid to hear from their reps because they think they're calling to sell them something else. And so when they can hear from me and it's just kind of like a look at this amazing thing you did and now you should capitalize on this. That's sometimes welcome from
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, see, and that even sounds like maybe a separate interview at some point.
Hmm.
Because that's if I was to take that and encapsulate that, you're talking about a pretty innovative approach to faces, which is
Hmm.
not, it doesn't stop with, hey, you're a face of philanthropy or
Yeah.
face of dermatology. It doesn't stop with that. It's like, okay, we're gonna push this out through our channels. You should be pushing it out through your channels, right?
We did a lot of that. We had a social media program where we repurposed it. We had an email program. We did a faces networking happy hour for all the participants.
What? Did
Yeah,
it
it
work?
was great. And
Did it
and
work?
there was some cool connections made there because you hear networking happy hour and you can think, oh, boring. I don't know about that. Um, but there was some really cool things that happened. There was a client there who was the face of charter schools in San Antonio, and then there was a doctor's office who was the face of orthopedic care. And they chatted, and now that doctor is the team doctor for that school. So we have actual case
What?
studies of this happy hour for our faces participants that actually led to new relationships. And that just made me so happy that
Yeah.
people, one, had fun, actually wanted to go. Um, yeah, so we went balls to the wall this year for faces.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping to replicate that.
So where did you get the ideas for that? Like, had you heard of other people doing that, or did you generate like what's the percentage of like ideas you generated versus what you borrowed from other markets? Just to get a sense, because I haven't heard people doing that before.
So for faces, it kind of happened organically. One, we knew there was going to be a lot of print revenue attached. And so a lot of the digital came down to how do we also add digital revenue? Of course, if you have a Faces print profile, it's going to go up online. We're not going to charge you extra for
Right.
that. But where could we capitalize? And so we had an upcharge to basically take your profile to turn it into
Yep.
a boosted social media campaign, to turn it into a custom email. So that kind of happened organically. And then it's funny, the happy hour kind of started just from a logistical need because when everyone buys a Faces profile, they get 10 copies of the magazine, they get a window cling for their business. There's some actual physical collateral they get. And we were like, how are we going to give this to these people? And so that came from a logistical need and then just kind of turned into something really cool for the clients.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I like that.
Mhm.
This whole segment right here. That's just it's so tactical. That's what I love about it. That's why I'm honing in on it and spending a little time here. It's
Yeah.
very tactical. Like I assume. I mean, what you just gave us was kind of a playbook, or I'm sure you have a playbook that you'll use again, right? Because you ended up adding a digital component, and did you generate some revenue from the digital side? Like, was it meaningful? Like what you got from the upgrade over?
It was, yeah, we exceeded our goal in both print and digital, and it did really well. And I'm hoping, and this was we've done Faces before, but the magazine is kind of having a rebirth now that it's under Hearst, and so
Yeah,
this was essentially year one.
yeah,
And so now, kind of having this beautiful case study to take to market next year, we're hoping that it can just continue to grow.
yeah. All right, fantastic. That's all good stuff. So got a little bit of time left. I want to get into the entrepreneurial approach that you're taking to lists.
Hmm.
So this year, and this is of note, that you added, you requested us to work with you to create a top mental health professionals list. And so this will be our first time doing it. We always get so excited when somebody's like, we really want to do this, and we're okay if we're the first. That's not everybody's okay to be the first, you know. So,
Yeah.
so kudos to you for boldness and entrepreneurialism on that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, because we didn't come to you and say, hey, you should do a top mental health list. That's not how it worked. You came to us. You were in your lab, and you
Mm-hmm.
came to us and said, hey, could you guys do this for us? What was happening in the lab that led to you seeing this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at what worked for us in the past, and I think hands down the most successful list for us has always been top doctors. And so we said, how can we take that and run with it? And there were some obvious ways. For next year, we'll be adding in top dentist to coincide with top docs in the same issue. And then it was actually in a meeting with some of my managers. One of my managers brought up, mental health professionals and how there's so many certifications out there, high level professionals, but they're not MDs. And so anyone on the top doctors list has to have a medical degree and a medical license. And so we kind of just had the wheels spinning. And I pull up the calendar, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and
Yeah,
it just kind of fit. And so we really wanted to do that to get into all of those licensed therapists, counselors. Some of them have PhDs. It's just a really cool opportunity, and we're super happy to pilot that.
yeah. So where where do you predict the revenue will come from for this one?
So we kind of take a two-prong approach to the list. We publish the list for any list we purchase. We publish it in print and online as editorial content because it is editorial content.
Right.
It's not pay to play. You cannot buy your way onto the list. And so we let everyone who's on the list know, hey, you made the list. Congratulations. It's such a great honor, whether it's peer to peer. I believe for top mental health professionals, because it's the first one, we opened it up to consumers, which I think is
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Because that gives someone an opportunity to say, I freaking love my therapist. I'm going to nominate them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's two ways you can capitalize on it with a branding ad for the clinic. So we see ads come in that are from an overall practice. So maybe a larger mental health facility clinic, they will buy an ad kind of on behalf of their people, kind of more about the brand. For every list, we create a badge. And so we'll have a top mental health professional badge. We have a top docs badge that we give out that they can add to their branding ad. That's a normal magazine ad. And then the other way is the individual profiles. Um, so this would be an opportunity. Maybe you're just a licensed therapist who's practicing on your own. You can buy a templated profile that has your bio, your info, your headshot, and then we'll add the badge there. And big do that too. We've had it where maybe a clinic does a half-page ad, and then they had 3 doctors on the list, and they'll do individual profiles for each of their doctors. So there's a lot of ways to go about it in different ways and capitalize on that.
Yeah. Now, what do you anticipate being the challenges for this one?
I think one will be that for this one specifically, we don't get a lot of mental health practices as just regular advertisers.
Yeah.
Whereas on the medical side, we do, a lot of dermatologists, a lot of
Yep.
plastic surgeons, a lot of orthopedic offices,
Yeah.
and then bigger hospital chains, they already advertise with us. And so our magazine, the audience leans higher income, more affluent. And so medical offices kind of are already one of our areas that we do really well in. And you don't see a lot of those mental health advertisers. And so I think this will kind of be for anyone who's either a practitioner or in marketing for them. I think this will kind of be a new idea for them, which might be a hurdle.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think will be key in terms of execution on this one? Like what's the execution? This is important because a list
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the same list have different results depending on how it's executed, right?
Yeah.
So
hmm
what do you think are the key elements of execution on your end?
I think consistency, constant communication from different sources. Every time we get a list, we send out an email from our editor. So it comes from her, and it's just congrats, you won. We
Yeah,
don't even mention advertising. We say great job. We get the emails from you guys, and then we also list match in all of our resources and pull from all of our resources and send that out, and it comes from our editor.
yeah,
And then usually about a week or two later, one comes from me, like, hi, I'm not your sales rep, I'm the ad director. I just wanted to congratulate you again, let you know there's so many ways you can capitalize on this great achievement. You can hear more from us, blah, 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 or like click here to, have a rep reach out. And then we assign the list out and the reps start doing their thing. And then, we follow up and we send out emails, once again, maybe the email just comes from San Antonio Magazine. It's like, just a reminder, the space deadline is in a week. So we have a lot of touch points. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, if we get leads that warm up, we get creative. I sat with the rep yesterday. We had a doctor client who wanted to do something. They had the budget to do something. They had 7 doctors on the list, and they were like, we have no interest in doing profiles, but we want to honor these 7 doctors somehow. And we mocked up an entire campaign for them. We mocked up a 2-page spread that showcased the doctors in a smaller way, but really focused on the brand. And then we showed them how they could highlight the doctors digitally. That wasn't a big lift on their end.
yeah.
And so, we're more than happy to use time and resources to do mock-ups if it's going to move that needle, where it makes sense.
Oh man, there's so much here. I wish we had more time for me to dig in with
Yeah.
you. But we can always do another one. That's what's good about the smaller chunks. So
Yeah.
this is great. I mean, this is like hyper concentrated rocket fuel here. I enjoy this. Like the bang for the buck is high. So any last words? So my readers and my watchers, viewers are media publishers, similar facing similar struggles to what you face every day. Any advice or yeah, what have you learned that you think would be useful for them to walk away with?
I think my biggest advice is it's always easier to sell if you look at it from the lens of the consumer. We're in our brand all day, every day. It is so easy to drink your own Kool-Aid, as you should. I should walk around like San Antonio Magazine is the best thing on earth. But sometimes you have to take a step out of that and think what makes sense for me as a reader. That's how we landed on all of our digital initiatives. It's like if I'm a reader and I'm trying to find a doctor in San Antonio, what's going to make the most sense for me digitally? And that's how we came up with our digital solution for Top Docs. And so once you look at it from what makes sense for your audience, then you can
Yeah,
so easily just pivot that into great solutions for your advertisers, and it just makes it that much easier to sell.
yeah. That's very sound advice. Uh, that's Max Pittman, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing what I think is actually great wisdom with me and with other people. And I wish you all the best on the list.
Thank you so much.
All right.